Take it away, John.
Alrighty, so welcome everybody to Preparing Your Career in Comm, the annual STC and FTC joint meeting we have for you. And we're so happy to have you join us, and we look forward to having you learn from all our talented professionals that we have here tonight. So I'm John Clement, the president of Future Technical Communicators, the Comm Club at UCF, and my co-host tonight is Deborah Johnson, the president of the STC Florida chapter, and together we'll be the facilitators of today's meeting. And as Bethany said, before we begin, we'd ask that you please mute yourselves to avoid picking up any background noise. And additionally, let us know in chat if you're having any technical difficulties, and we'll probably look into them. So I'd like to pass over the mic to Deborah so she can go over the agenda for tonight.
Hi, everyone. Just a quick note before I welcome everyone. We have, this is our agenda. As you can see, as we go through this, it'll become more apparent and you will get through the presentation. So I'm not going to, as you can read, so we're just going to kind of move on here. I just, on behalf of the Florida chapter and, oh, sorry, I just went right over it. On behalf of the Florida chapter, I want to thank you all for coming this evening and joining and participating in our annual joint meeting with the Future Technical Communicators Club and our chapter. And I want to thank our presenters for joining us in person and on the call. I guess in person would be on the call. Okay, my name is Deborah Johnson again. I'm the president of the Florida chapter. And I want to tell you a little bit about the chapter. It was formed in 1977 and is dedicated to serving the needs of technical communicators in Central Florida, all of Florida, and beyond. And it has grown into something much, much more. And what we do is we support and help assist technical communicators, practitioners of all levels, students, those are making the choice in the profession. We have very close ties to the University of Central Florida, which have fostered student to professional transitions and has enabled our members and visitors to benefit from knowledge in both theory and practice arenas. We support our members by providing them with an outlet for networking, for fellowship, sharing of information among like-minded technical communicators and those who want to learn about the profession. We offer recognition as a member of an active community-minded professional association and information regarding technical communication employment opportunities. Again, just finding out, providing information and support for those in the profession as well as those who might be interested in joining. And we also have opportunity to learn how to become professional leaders in this profession, and we work and help you. Those who have been around and been doing it a long time are very much in support of those who are coming in, those who want to know more, and we have mentoring opportunities to help them. Next month, we're hosting our annual employment panel, and we'll be sending out the details on the date for that, very soon. And now, John, if you want to go ahead and talk about the summit this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Society for Technical Communication hosts an international TechComm summit every year. FTC's Technical Communication Summit is the premier conference for technical communication, education, and networking, featuring top-notch presenters to discuss key trends, issues, and cutting-edge solutions in technical communication. The summit also provides numerous networking opportunities with colleagues and thought leaders in the field, and summit attendees will learn about new techniques and trends, as well as grow their skills and competencies. The 2021 summit this year is going to take place from June 5th to June 9th online. Students can volunteer in exchange for free registration. So whether you're a professional or a student, if you want to get more involved in FTC, the summit is a great place to network, get to know people, not only for the networking, but to enhance your TechComm skills. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And soon enough, FTC is going to be promoting it, offering some more detail on it. And you can always reach out to FTC directly for information. And we'd love to have you. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. J.D. Applin, the FTC faculty advisor, to say a few words about the Future Technical Communicators Club at UCF.
Okay, thanks a lot, John.
Can you guys see me? I don't know.
There you are.
Okay, cool. All right. Not that it matters. Anyway, I got an email this earlier today from Bethany that says, John has prepared a slide for you. And I said, what's the slide? Because, you know, the FBI has prepared a file for me. And, you know, there's, I just didn't quite know what that meant, you know. And then I looked at Deb's and I looked at John's, and they have a lot of stuff on it. But here's my slide right here. And, you know, I guess this means you have to wing it. So, anyway, I've been hosting, I guess, the sponsor of this club for about 20 years now. It started in 2002, 2003. A couple of students, one graduate student and one undergraduate, asked me to be the sponsor. They had this idea called Future Technical Communicators, and it was a way of it was to be what Sigma Tau Delta was for literature, for the tech writers in our program. And that's the English Honor Society, Sigma Tau Delta. And I said, so, okay, that sounds good. And it was a great idea. Sometimes the students have the best darn ideas. And since that time, we've always had good people in it. I go way back a long time ago. You know, I know Alex is here tonight. He was one of the original people in it. Going to the SGA meetings and being told that our bill would not be heard again tonight, you know, where we're trying to get money to go to Seattle and some other places where the summit was. And anyway, over this time, I keep saying this over and over again, and some of you guys have heard this, STC and FTC have been really great. FTC has been really great for our students. It has allowed the network to meet people, to understand what you can't learn in classes at the University of Central Florida or any place, about what the market is like and what TechComm is in the workplace and how to get a job. And every year we've had this February meeting, except for one year where we had a tropical storm and it was canceled. So this year we forged on and we're on Zoom, and that's great. And if you're the first time, just keep coming back, keep trying, keep engaged with FTC and STC, network with people, just find people in this group. I mean, earlier Alex was saying, you know, he got a job. I heard the conversation from a contact in FTC and or STC and FTC, and I know Bethany's got a couple, and just the networking thing helps you so much get that first job or maybe that second job. You get to know the people in the field in your local area, and I guess we're going, you know, nationwide now with Jack and some others, Rachel. So anyway, I thank you for giving me time to speak, and I'm really glad to see so many people here tonight. And the reason I've stayed on as the faculty sponsor of this club is because it is so efficient. It has done so much good for so many of our students. It really works. It's not a silly club where people just get together and hang out and have a lot of fun. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying it really works. Just hang in here with the FTC people. Just hang in here with the local STC people, and it'll help you a lot. So thanks for inviting me tonight.
Yeah, and we're happy to have you, Dr. Applin. So as Dr. Applin just mentioned, FTC offers a number of benefits for current students who want to pursue careers in technical communications. It's an established club at the university, and we offer a lot of opportunities to students. So I'd like to highlight just a few of the things that we have going on throughout the semester as FTC, or things that we like to offer to our student members. So as a whole, we're dedicated to helping TechComm students pursue their future careers through meetings just like this one. We offer meetings every 2 weeks, every other Friday, and we like to have just presentations and workshops and other kinds of events that help with just developing your TechComm skills or developing your leadership skills, your writing skills. So for example, we have writing workshops, resources and skill sharing workshops, and guest speaker events. And aside from meetings as well, we have a number of academic and professional benefits that we like to provide to students, such as the mentoring program, which we do in partnership with STC Florida, where you can pair up with a mentor, a professional technical communicator, and just share their knowledge and learn from them. It's that direct one-on-one experience that's really a highlight of the club that we like to push. And on top of that, we offer leadership opportunities. if you're an officer at this club or part of one of our committees, helping us by volunteering, submitting work, helping us in our projects, you develop those tech common leadership skills, which will help you in your future career. And aside from that, just by being a member and connecting with us on social media, our Discord, just any of our online platforms, we like to offer job opportunities that we come across, as well as scholarships. And overall, membership is free and open to all. You don't have to be a current. You don't have to be a current student. You can be undergraduate, graduate, or you can even be anyone just interested in TechCom. We really like to have our events open to everybody who wants to learn and just has that willingness to just commit to the field and participate in our activities. So again, we're happy to have you. And as Bethany just posted in the chat, we have our website where we have links to our social media, more info about us, and just ways that you can connect with us. And we'd be happy to have you join our club.
Excuse me.
Yeah. And here's just a bit about the current FTC leadership team. So we have an amazing slate of officers and members, officers and committee members that I'd like to go through. So I'm going to call through each of the names, and if you're here, just raise your hand so everybody can see who you are. So I already introduced myself. I'm John Clement, the current president of FTC. And next up is Caitlin Hunter, our vice president and the chair of the communications committee. And we have Angela Kafka, our treasurer. Claire Arendas, who isn't here to join us tonight, but she's our historian. Rebecca Navas, a member of our communications committee. Ben Bowles, the chair of our website committee. Guy Smith, our secretary. And finally, Dr. J.D. Alpman, who you just heard from, our faculty sponsor. So if you're just joining us, again, feel free to introduce yourself in chat. We'd love to learn your name, know where you're coming from, how you got interested, and really just get to know you more. But we're happy to introduce ourselves and to be presenting this meeting alongside FTC Florida. But for now, I'd like to pass the reins on to Bethany for our next topic, the Melissa Pellegrin Memorial Scholarship.
Thanks, John. On behalf of the chapter, I'm honored to recognize the recipients of the prestigious Melissa Pellegrin Memorial Scholarship. I've served as the chapter's representative on the Melissa Pellegrin Scholarship Committee at UCF for several years, reviewing applications from UCF students who are sharing everything they have done and plan to do in their careers and how they hope to earn this award. So, for those who are not familiar, the Melissa Pellegrin Memorial Scholarship Fund was founded in 1997 by the Florida chapter of STC to honor and preserve the memory and generous spirit of a valued friend and professional colleague, Melissa Pellegrin. She was a 1994 graduate of the University of Central Florida and a member of the chapter. She was an exceptional student who earned a undergraduate scholarship in 1994, and this is the scholarship that now bears her name. After graduation, she also served on the Florida chapter's education committee. Her commitment to excellence was evident in the quality of her academic and professional work, and she shared her enthusiasm in many ways, including professional presentations at STC conferences and meetings. She was employed as a technical communicator with the Resource Center in Tampa until her untimely death in April 1997. So each year, we review the applications and choose students who exemplify the spirit of Melissa Pellegrin and a commitment to the field of technical communication. So I'm looking forward to sharing with you all this year's recipients. So our 2021 honorees are Angela Kafka and John Clement. Feel free to do a virtual round of applause, either clapping of hands or if you can see the little reaction button, I think you can click a little hand clapping. Sorry, we can't have you, in front of a room full of applause this year, Angela and John, but I'm glad we can acknowledge you virtually. Just for a little bit about each of our honorees, Angela Kafka is a fourth-year English Technical Communication and Writing and Rhetoric student graduating this May. She serves as the communications coordinator at Page 15, a local literacy nonprofit, and she looks forward to bringing together her academic and volunteer experience as she pursues a career as an editor, as you guys have already heard today. From her application, she said, "I aspire to be a technical communicator for the entirety of my professional life, and in that, I would be honored to represent the legacy of Melissa Pellegrin." So, Angela, I think you wanted to say a few words.
Yes, you summed it up really well. First, I'd like to say I'm honored again to be the recipient of this scholarship. It means a lot to have the opportunity to be supported by this group of people and to achieve this honor. So thank you again. I'm very glad.
Was well deserved. You had a great application, and I was glad to get to learn more about you through it. For John, he is a fourth year English Technical Communication, Computer Science, and Philosophy student. John, as you know, now serves as the president of the Future Technical Communicators Student Club, where he has organized not just this event, but last year's as well, and some other major events for the club. John currently serves at the society level of STC as the student outreach director on STC's Community Affairs Committee, and he's a member of the membership marketing committee as well. In his application, John said, "On my path ahead is a master's degree in this field, and I'm excited to see where this journey takes me and know that I'm in an industry I love." So, John, I think you had a few remarks as well.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Bethany, for the welcome, and everybody for congratulations. So I'm just so thankful for the award, and really it's an honor to just be able to continue the memory of Melissa Pellegrin through the scholarship, because I know that it's one that means a lot in her memory as a technical communicator. And I hope to just do so through continued commitment to the field and just pursuing just all the more academically, professionally, and personally, because the scholarship means a lot, and just the honor and the congratulations means a lot too. And I'd also like to congrats Angela. Just congratulations on the award as well. But then again, thanks everybody for just congratulations, and a shout out to the mentors that I've had, and just all the professors that I've had, some of whom in this call. So you know who you are, and just thank all of you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Congratulations to you too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you could shake each other's hands if it wasn't a pandemic. We'll do that in the future. So I look forward to mailing you your recognitions in the coming weeks. But for now, this is our opportunity. So thank you to everyone who said congratulations in the chat and sent their regards. It's a great scholarship. I'm glad to see two wonderful people who have earned it. So I'm going to hand it back to Deborah as we begin tonight's presentations.
Okay, tonight we're very honored to have quite a slate of experienced professionals in technical communication from different industries, and they're all here to share their career experience. Each presenter will be giving a brief presentation on their path. And if you would, please hold your questions until live questions until the end, or you can type them into the chat. And again, if you would keep yourself muted, and so we don't have any background noise. And we also, they will give, I'm going to let them each give a little bit of information about themselves. So we have up first, we have Mr. Jack Molisani.
So a little bit about me. I'm the president of ProSpring Technical Staffing, an agency that specializes in content professionals. I'm the author of Be the Captain of Your Career, number 5 on Amazon's career and resume bestseller list. I'm happy to report first printing is sold out, and we're doing a second printing that should be available soon. I'm an STC fellow, and I'm running for committee next month. Okay. All right, so we're talking about resumes, interviewing, and portfolios. I've got 10 minutes to cover about 3 hours worth of work. So at the end of my presentation, there'll be a link to my website where you can download the full-length version of the slides and other articles. So let's start with resumes. I am a firm believer that the current definition of resume is incomplete. I believe a resume is just a vehicle that shows that you match what the reader's looking for, or for which the reader's looking for, you grammarians and editors in the group. And that's all it is. So when approaching your job search or career search, and you're sending a resume, realize whoever you're sending it to is looking for something. They have a problem they're trying to solve, right? And say they want technical writer with a security clearance with experience doing radar systems, right? You want to communicate that you've done that. And the fewer the words you can use, Bethany, the better. Oops.
Sorry, one second. Let me pull the slides back up again.
Okay. So since I know what's on the next slide, keep in mind that you are writing for short attention span theater. So if you're going to err on the side of brevity, including your objective or at the top of your resume. What you want to keep in mind is, since the client or customer or employer has a problem, say how you can help the company, not what the company do for you. When I get, especially from entry level, saying, I'm looking for a company who will nurture me and let me express myself and blah, 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 blah. No, you dare to say, hi, I can help you reduce your tech support costs. I can help you increase revenue. You're a valuable part of the content development team or the product development team. All right. So state what you can do for the company, not what can they do for you. All right. Again, just like a resume is the vehicle that shows you match what the reader's looking for at the top. So in the case of our system, I get a resume that says, senior technical writer, 20 plus years creating printed and online documentation for agriculture, military, and radar navigation systems. I'm going, perfect. That's what I can stop reading right there. Explained what I'm looking for. Okay. Now, it's harder to do that uploading your resume to monster.com, but if you have a description, it's a good place to start. Okay, next slide. When you do write your resume, keep in mind that no one will your and weep at the sheer beauty and poetry of your words. We just time. Look for keywords in it. So don't give us ammunition with which to reject you. Be brief, but clear. If you're going to err on brevity. Use action verbs. I wrote, I tested. Nothing when someone says, I was responsible for writing blah, blah, blah. I said, well, that's great. Did you do it? So be clear. The most common mistakes I see in resumes is a mix of hyphens and end dashes in your date ranges. Microsoft Word tries to be helpful. If you do space, hyphen, space, it'll turn it into an end dash for you. It's called an end dash because it's the width of a letter N. But if you use space, up arrow, it does not. So first thing to do, make sure all your resumes are consistent. I had a little bit of an internet hiccup there. I hope it should be back now. Okay, according to the Chicago Manual of Style, most correct punctuation is an end dash, no spaces on either side. Just a tip. Have 0 typos in your resume. I used to say that engineers could get away with typos, but tech writers cannot, but I don't think that's true. I once had a client tell me about a programmer, she can't write 2 pages of error-free resume. How can they expect her to write 18,000 lines of error-free code? Okay. And I guarantee you, you've been staring at your resume far too long and you're not going to see the errors in it. So give it to somebody else to read. Give it to your next door neighbor. Give the checkout counter. I don't care, as long as it's someone other than you. And Jessica asked, error-free what? Error-free resumes. You make sure you're using consistent punctuation. Oftentimes people will end a phrase with a period. Well, periods are normally used in sentences, not phrases. Those kind of errors, just 0 typos, 0 grammatical mistakes at all. This isn't on my slide, but it's a word of advice. Create a distinct email address, like on Gmail, because it's free, saying Joe Jones, technical writer, job search, and use that when you're applying for jobs or posting your resume online. Because if you start getting spam, you can just kill that email address. And it explains who you are and what you do. I can tell just by the name of your resume. Okay, let's go on. Just like a resume is a vehicle that shows that you match what the reader's looking for, so is an interview, right? Now, a show of hands, how many people have gone on an interview and discovered that what they're looking for was nothing like what was in the job description? Anyone? A few people? Okay. Let's go to the next slide. You can't tell someone that you match what they're looking for if you don't know, right? I went in an interview once and the person said, tell me about you. So I said, well, tell me a little bit about what you're looking for so I'll have a context in which to answer your questions. Write that down. You may use it. And she said, someone with good diplomacy skills. I went, excuse me, tell me more. Apparently, this company had a lot of really brilliant PhDs and none of them got along. And they really needed someone with diplomacy skills because if one wanted something edited one way and someone wanted it edited a different way, well, now you're doing conflict resolution. And the last writer didn't have those skills. It was a soft skill, nowhere in the job description. And I guarantee you the head of HR is looking for something different than the head of engineering or QA. And so every person you talk to, ask them, tell me a little bit about what you're looking for so I'll tell you how I match that. All right, let's go on. I also believe you can tell more about a person by the questions they ask than the answers they give. Use this to your advantage. Ask, how are you publishing your documentation? Is it print only? Are you sending it in PDF? Are you using online help? Are you doing structured authoring? Which tools are you using, right? What are the bottlenecks that maybe I can help with? And that manager, well, wow, this person's on the ball. They take initiative. They know what they're talking about. So use that to your advantage. Now, granted, if you're an entry-level person, you may not know a robust library of questions to ask, but you can also always start with, what do you need someone to do in this position? How do you measure success? What metrics that I can help you improve? Wow, boy, yeah, right on. Okay, use that to your advantage. All right, let's go on. This is harder for introverts than it is for extroverts, but a word of advice is assume you have that job and ask at the end of the interview, what's the next step? Right? They may say, well, we have to interview 25 more people, or, ooh, come talk to my boss, right? It's called an assumed close. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But again, I tend to look for proactive people, not reactive people. I want someone to not be spoon-fed. And by asking for the close, it shows me that you can ask questions, you can get things done, right? An example of this is, what if you ask somebody, a subject matter expert, for an edit and they don't give it to you, right? Well, you have to ask again, or you have to get that part done. So this is just an indication of how well you communicate and ask for what you need to do your job. All right. All right, Julia says, my favorite question to ask at the end is, based on what we've talked about, is there anything that is leaving you with a hesitancy about hiring me for this position? Excellent. Getting back to the question about what are you looking for at the top of the interview, I've also asked, what do you look for that you haven't found in other candidates, right? Because again, you're trying to pull out of them what they're looking for and what's going to make you a perfect match for this position. Then what I mean by next step is oftentimes the next step will be a written test or a writing test. The next step may be a second round of interviews. The next step might be checking your references, right? It varies from company to company. But you go, wow, I'm really excited to start this position. It seems like I can help you with this and it's just right up my alley. What's the next step? Right? That's what I mean by next step. Good questions. All right. Roberta says, I think of an interview as a first date. Do I want the date to the company again? I'm firmly believing that you're interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you. So I absolutely agree with Roberta. Okay, next slide. Oh, we're already on it. Okay, so portfolios. Again, this is a 45-minute workshop condensed into 2 slides. I assert that a portfolio is more than just samples of my work. It's a tool that I use to walk an interview down a path of understanding where I want it to go. Next slide. I want to establish that I'm in my field to the level to which I've been trained. So if you're an entry-level writer and only took a technical writing certificate program, I expect you to be expert with numbered and bulleted lists or an introductory paragraph, and that's about it. But be the best darn bullet writer you can be, right? The next thing I do with my portfolio is show that I really have done what I said, because people believe what they than what they say here. And finally, I can solve their business problems because I've done. Okay. Now, my interview needs to be in person. Now that we're doing virtual and online portfolio, would be better. I'm not an expert in online portfolios, but there are people who are. So do an internet search and you'll find several really good examples. Okay, next. All right, so the slides to all three of these presentations are on my website, which is prosperingstem.com/resource. Next. And we're sending out the slides so you can grab that later. And there was supposed to be one more slide, was there not? Okay, so it was my contact slide. So I've already put in my emails. There you go. And I'll put it into the chat window as well. Others have said one of the ways that I can give back to my STC community is I'm more than happy to review your resume for free. Also, if a job comes in, I already have your resume. I am on LinkedIn. I'm the only Jack Molisani on LinkedIn and on Twitter as well. So that's my 10 minutes, I believe. Let's move on.
All right, thank you so much for your presentation. And next up, we have Diane Hogan.
Okay, hello everybody. I am one of those person that put late on the survey. So I'm not quite retired. I left my full-time job in December because I wanted to slow down a little bit. And so now I'm freelancing. I start a new project next week and I'm very excited. So I have been in the software industry ever since I graduated from college, which was in 1977. So I've been doing this a long time, over 40 years. Started out as a developer and transitioned information security, instructional design. I developed content all along the way and then finally fell into technical writing. So it just happened. Somebody called me and said, "You have a great background. Would you like to do this?" And I had just started my doctorate, so I thought, okay, this will be a good job where I can kind of turn things on and off and work on my doctorate while I'm also working full time. So it worked out well, and I have been doing technical writing since 2006. Okay, so next slide, please. So these are the tools I use, and I'm going to talk about mostly Word and Madcap Flare. But these other tools, Snagit and Visio, actually Snagit is very, very useful. I can't live without it, and it's very affordable to purchase. If your employer doesn't have it, it's like $49. It's very affordable. Visio is a little bit pricey, but it's a wonderful tool. It's a Microsoft tool for diagrams. It makes your doc look just really, really professional. And I consider Microsoft Word a supportive tool, but if that's all you have, you can really make it work for you. But it's we'll talk about that a little bit. And then I love Grammarly. I am not a grammarian. My degree is not in English or technical communication. So business management and then education. So I love Grammarly because it helps me get through things, and so does Word. Next slide. Okay, so when you think about an authoring technical communication tools, really the first thing I think about is an authoring tool. while you may have only been exposed to Microsoft Word, and you can use it as an authoring tool, but it doesn't scale. So you will feel the pain of that fairly quickly if you're managing multiple guides, user guides. But Word is a good place to start if that's all you have, and I'll explain why. But first of all, when you think about an authoring tool, you want it to scale, and you really want it to be topic-based, whereas Word is linear. It's a linear tool. A topic-based tool lets you just move pieces around, like on a game board. You can just move these pieces around as you need them. And ideally, you want to write once and use many. That's the value, the power of an authoring tool. You can write a little piece of content and use it in various places and move it around. Also, your authoring tool should use, and I think they all do use, cascading style sheets, CSS. And I'm going to mention styles a lot because styles are the key to making your documentation look great. And you learn pretty much early in the game, once you're using an authoring tool, styles are critical to eventually pick up and learn. I realized that, especially when I started out as a tech writer using Word, and Word does have styles. It's not cascading style sheet, but Word does have styles, and it's a very good foundation for going on to CSS. And your authoring tool also needs to be able to generate multiple output types, so that you can generate PDFs as well as generate HTML5 output. Okay, but if you don't have a full-blown authoring tool such as Madcap Flare, Microsoft Word is a great place to start. Word has lots of built-in features to help you fine-tune your writing, and you can also use their styles, which I'll show you that briefly. And then I use Grammarly to help clean up my writing. And there is a free web-based version, so it just makes it, it's not as convenient because I use it as a plugin for Word, but it's great if you need to clean up some writing. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so Madcap Flare is where I want to spend a little bit more time. It's a large product, very powerful product, and this is just a little view into what it can do. It is an authoring tool for developing and managing content, and that's important.
Hello.
Hello? Did someone ask a question? Oh, sorry. Okay. And it's topic-based. So your topics can be a few sentences to, a few images and some procedures, or very long. I don't recommend long topics because they're a little more difficult to manage. But so you decide how big your topic needs to be, and you can publish to all these various outputs. So I primarily use HTML5 and PDF, and then I use Word, the Word output for SME reviews. And what Flare offers is, as you can see, you can use variables. So you can use product names, company names, because it does happen. Everything will be going great. In about a year or two into the job, they'll say, oh, we're rebranding. We're changing company colors, we're changing our logo, we're changing product names. So if those are variables, then it's very easy to make that change. You change it in one place and it changes it everywhere. It uses conditions. This is for print only, this is for online only, or this is only for product A, not product B. And snippets are just a way to reuse some content within a topic. Snippets are just reusable content. Micro content is a really cool feature of Flare. And now they have enhanced it so that you could actually use it for context sensitive help. Like I said, this is a very powerful product. And Flare also uses cascading style sheets. CSS styles are how you make your style, your HTML files. So for example, we're seeing a slide here that has a light turquoise kind of color. That in Flare or any HTML5 output, or like a website, that'd be controlled by CSS. Same with the font and the font size. The bullets, it's all controlled by CSS. And you can publish your content to various outputs. That's what a target's considered. How I'm going to publish this. It's going to go to HTML5. It's going to go to a PDF. Skins style the HTML output for you. So Flare comes with a lot of built-in stuff, and you can go and tweak it, change colors, add logos. If you're going to do print output, you can style your print output with page layouts, and master pages are great for, I want every page to look like this. So master page is like a template. I want breadcrumbs, I want some navigation, whatever. That all goes in a master page. You don't recreate that every time. And then you can also do what's called global project linking. You can store all your common elements, let's say your style sheet and this global project, and push it out to all your individual projects. Next slide, please. So I was going to take you to MadCap's website, but you can go there on your own and look. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Oh, it didn't go exactly where I thought it would go. Can you click on, oh, there, we're at Flare, I'm sorry. Yeah, so scroll down. It's a very long screen. If you keep going, this is a good diagram of just what, basically what Flare, you can import various files into Flare, so it makes conversion easier. And then you can publish out to different outputs. And Flare, MadCap also offers a product called Central, which you can get analytics. You can actually see, our users are looking at my help and what are they looking for? Are they trying to find something about sofas? And I don't have anything about sofas, but I have documentation about a couch. Oh, I need to change some terms. Okay, now you can scroll down a little bit. Thank you. Keep scrolling, keep going down. I just wanted to get down to actually some of the things. Yeah, so the interface for Flare, which is right here. So it's a very powerful, complex tool. And this is just a little GIF that's showing you the ribbon toolbar. And then if you just on the right under, yeah, thank you. Content Explorer is where you keep all your content. There's your topics. They're HTMs or HTML files. And then the project organizer is where you keep other stuff like the skins, the targets, the table of contents, and on. So this is just a little view of what Flare looks like. And this is what a topic would look like. And it's very easy to author in Flare. And then behind the scenes, we can see the code or the HTML. You can see that behind the scenes. And so that's just a little view into Flare. We're going to go back to the slide because I think it's, till you play with it is kind of, okay, so you can go to the next slide. Oh, well, the one thing about Flare though, you can move topics around, and that's not topics or content. That's not as easy to do in Word because Word is linear based. Basically, if you have a long document like a guide, a user guide, or release notes or whatever, and now I need to move this to a different chapter, you literally have to copy paste or cut and paste and move it around. Then you have to go back and double check, did I get everything, and remove it from here and put it over here. So that's the downside to Word as your authoring tool. But you just have to be aware of all of the things that you really need it to do, but it's limited. And I managed a very large doc set for about 4 years using Microsoft Words. I mean, it was doable, but I couldn't do things as fast as I can in Flare. Now, Word has styles, and that is important. To me, it's very difficult to survive without styles because styles will make your document consistent. And so what I mean is you don't want to go within a Word doc and say, oh, I want to bold this, do Control B, or go up to the ribbon and click B for bold. Ideally, you use a style. Or, I want this heading to be navy blue and so many points in height. You can do that in line up in the ribbon, but ideally you want to use a style because then when you decide your heading 1 needs to be gray versus blue, you change the style and everything's changed in the document for you. That's how you want to operate. Plus with styles, you get a consistent look. If you're doing a lot of inline changes, on the fly there, you're going to have a lot of inconsistencies in your document and it won't look professional. So what Word comes with is what they call a template. It's called normal.dot. It's the template with the basic styles. If you ever open up a Word doc and you have to open up the styles pane, it's not easy to find. You'll see the styles, and there's just a few of them. There's not many. So you can customize those styles and create new ones within a document. Or ideally you create, and then you would create your own look and feel, and then you would save that as a template so that you can apply that template to your guides. So let's say, you have a production documentation and your template is, whatever your name of your company is, maybe it's, you give it a company name or whatever. And so it'd be a separate DOT file, not normal. So it'd be my DOT, whatever. And then it would have your unique styles in that template. And then when you need to restyle a document, you would attach that template to your Word doc. And then you obviously have to go through and make sure everything's clean. But it gives everything a consistent look. So styles are important, whether it's an authoring tool or using Word. And where I also use Word for SME reviews. It just seems to be the best way to do it because you can use track changes, or you can put it up on a Google Drive and open it as a Google Doc, and multiple people can get in there and collaborate. But it's an interim. It's not a total workflow. And once I send something off for review and get people's feedback, I just look to see what they did, and then I go back and I incorporate it in my authoring tool. Madcap does offer a way to do SME reviews and incorporate it back into Flare, but I think it's still in its infancy. So I still prefer Word for my SME reviews. And then I put a link in here. This Shauna Kelly has a great website about so much good technical stuff about Word. So I put that in there because I thought it was very useful. I used to live in that website. Okay, next slide, please. Can you go to oh, thank you. Okay, so this is just an example of a Word doc, 2 Word docs. At the top, you can see on the right, I've opened up the styles pane. And these are Word's default styles. And there's not very many of them. And so you can see heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. So heading 1 will be your highest level, and then 2 and 3 would be, a smaller point size and maybe, slightly different color, whatever, just so that the user has a visual cue. We're looking at a subtopic of something. So you can use as is, you can edit these, you can save them and create your own styles. So the screenshot below that is actually part of my dissertation, where I created my own styles and saved it as a separate template. And I gave the styles a prefix so that they would all sort together. So you could call it whatever you want, but keep it short so that you don't take too much real estate. And and then for a while I edited dissertations for doctoral students. So I had to have custom styles in my own template so I could attach it to their document. So you can't really live without styles in Word because it gives you a very consistent look and feel. Okay, next slide. And here's another example of using Word as what I consider a supportive tool. Word has a lot of great ways to help you clean up your writing. Again, this is my dissertation, and I just turned on the options. So you go to File, Options, and Proofing, and you make your selections for what you want Word to show you. And it will show you where you could shorten this phrase, or obviously it's going to show you typos, punctuation issues. You can go into the options and control what you want it to show you. And I recommend you do that because it will help you clean up your writing. Okay, next slide. And I mentioned Grammarly. I love Grammarly. I have a subscription so that I can have it as a plugin to Word. And once again, this is my dissertation, and I'm looking at it going, oh my gosh, I wish I could go back and clean this up a little bit. I didn't use Grammarly when I wrote this. So anyway, you can see it's got some underscores and some green and red. It's like, hey, the red, I should have had a hyphen. Oops. And I think the and is probably missing a comma. Whoops. But then one of the things I really like about Grammarly, you can see the blue. It says, you know, you could probably clean this sentence up. So now it's not always going to be what you want. You have to really look at it and go, oh yeah, that's much better. Or you might go, oh no, don't touch it. You're changing the whole meaning of it. So like I said, I don't have a degree in English, so I love this tool. So I wish I could go back in time and clean up my dissertation, but anyway, that's that one. Next, and it plugs into Word and Outlook, but that's if you have the premium subscription, but it also has a browser extension. So like it works really well with Gmail. But then you can use a free version and copy paste content or upload a document. I think that free version supports upload. Okay, next slide. And Visio. So this is a Microsoft product, and I just showing an example of a diagram that I did. I don't have Visio on my machine anymore. I had it with my previous job, so I've got to figure out how much I want to pay and get it again. It's a great tool. It allows you to add value to your documentation, so you can show relationships or workflow, especially if something's complicated. So, you know, users that are really trying to understand something, they can see this flow and, oh, there's a decision, yes, no, and they can, you know, help them learn a little bit more about how the software works. And so I put these in my documentation. And next. Next, thank you. So this is just a list of, I put some links in here so you can actually get a trial version of Snagit. You can get a trial version of Flare. They're only 30 days. Then Madcap Software does a lot for its users. They give them a lot of free information. You can watch webinars. You can go through their tutorials about how to use the product. They're doing a lot now about how to use CSS. CSS is it's really cool, but it's also challenging. I just found myself kind of backing into it one day, realizing I really need to learn this. So the last bullet item is a very useful link to learn CSS. It's a great website, W3 Schools. There's references, there's tutorials, and you can actually go and play. It'll show you how to do CSS, and it'll say, try it yourself, and you can change things and click run, and you can see, oh, I made this red. You know, it was green, now I made it red. It's really a cool place. A good website. I stay there a lot. Then if you actually want to see what some output looks like in Flare, Madcap has a customer showcase page. You can see what a lot of their customers have done with the product. It's really fun because they make the documentation look like a website, and that's what I did. My last two positions, I had a lot of I had the luxury of experimenting and testing, working from home. You just kind of get lost in testing and playing with some things. So I actually converted a very large doc set to Madcap Flare, and then had a lot of fun designing it. And I really had to learn CSS to do that. And that is it. Oh, and I did use Madcap Flare to create my portfolio. So I have an online portfolio, and I enjoyed putting that together. That's it.
Right. Thank you, Diane, for the fantastic presentation.
Oh, thank you.
And next up, we have Lawyer Meyer for a presentation on career paths.
Hi, everyone. If you could just bring my slide up, that would be great. Can you all hear me? First of all, is if anyone can't hear me, please, give a shout out. I'm a technical communicator that's been in this business a long time, but I am not. I'm a second career technical writer. Actually, I came from advertising and public relations, and I have to laugh when I think back about how I made the transition into tech comm because the public relations firm I was working for had merged twice and laid off several of us. So I was in the market for another communication writing job, and I looked mostly in corporate communications and public relations firm. But I talked to a career counselor who asked me, have you ever considered technical writing? And I was kind of taken aback because the answer was no, I had not considered it. And when she asked me this, I felt, why is she telling me about technical writing? I don't have a computer science degree. I'm not a scientist or a programmer. And wouldn't it be kind of dry and boring work? And now I have to almost laugh when I think about that because I was wrong on both counts. First of all, it did not matter that I didn't have a computer science or programming degree. And second of all, it is anything but boring. It is a dynamic, fascinating, challenging field, and I don't regret for a moment having made this transition into it. I've been involved in STC for many, many years myself, and that's been sort of a career partnership for me. And I recommend very strongly that if you have not joined STC, consider joining it and becoming involved. So now let's talk about career paths. So next slide, please. Oh, next slide. Thank you. As many of us have come to discover, tech comm is actually a very versatile profession with many options for satisfying, challenging, and well-paying work. And even though there are far more people coming out of college with technical communication degrees than there were maybe 20 or so years ago, it's still an excellent second career opportunity, as it was for me and as it has been for many, many people. And as you get into the workforce, you're going to find that you're working with second career technical writers who will bring wonderful perspectives to their jobs and to their working relationships with you. So what is this about a career path? How do we define it? It's defined, there's a very personal aspect to a career path, but in general, it's defined by the type of work you do, the subject area in which you work, your educational background, your own passion and vision, and sometimes there might be a curve or a fork in the road because you may find yourself in a place that you never expected to be, and sometimes that can be very, very good. So next slide, please. Now, as a profession, technical writing and editing and everything that goes with it has gone through some amazing changes in the last 10 years alone, in the last 5 years alone. But when you've been in the profession as long as I have, it's just absolutely stunning, the changes that have occurred. Most of them are very good. Some of them are somewhat painful, but all of these changes present opportunities and challenges to us. And as a result, your career path, the road that you travel, will very rarely be a straight one on the left. It will most likely be on the right with many curves. And the curves will be curves of discovery and challenge and questions and answers. So your career will take many interesting turns as you go about your career path. So what about the work that we do? Well, they used to call us technical writers, and the image was typically someone that sat in front of a typewriter or a machine and just pounded out the content. And we're still doing that, but that is just the beginning, because now our field has expanded in so many ways. We're editors, managers, project leaders, content strategists, UX writers, information architects, teachers, illustrators, instructional designers, trainers, and many other things I probably forgot to put on this slide. But the gist is that technical communication is no longer a single identifiable skill. It's actually a cluster of skills. And with those skills, expand your options. Next slide, please. So technical communication is incredible in its diversity. You could see, I'm not going to read all of these specialty options that you can pursue, but there are so many ways, directions you can go to in this field. And you may not end up in the same area that you started in, and that's all right. But there may be something that grabs you and you want to make a lifelong commitment to it. But you have those different options. But look at all of the things that you can do as a technical communicator. Next slide. Now, your professional development path can take it can be identified in many ways. But in general, most of us, our career paths fall into three big buckets: organizational, entrepreneurial, and educational. Now, a lot of us start out in the organizational bucket, where we start out maybe as a W-2 contractor or a part-timer or a freelancer or an entry-level technical writer or editor in an organization. And we might want to move up either on a technical path or a management path within an organization, either in the public or private sector. You may take an educational path where you serve as a teacher, or a training teacher, an instructional designer, or you're an instructor on the secondary school or college level. You might end up being a department head or professor at either a 2-year or 4-year institution. Or you may take the entrepreneurial path if you have a desire to own a business or just be an independent consultant. That is an option too. And sometimes people go back and forth between these three areas, and they often intersect because, for example, you might own a training business and go to work consulting for a specific company for 6 months to a year or something like that. And you may be teaching part-time. You may have a full-time technical writing job in a company and then teach technical writing courses in the evenings on weekends. So, there are lots of mix and match types of opportunities. So, next slide, please. Oh, thank you. So what are some guideposts as you pursue your career path? First of all, you need to invest in some travel guides, and one of the best is STC. Make STC part of your professional life. Get involved in an STC community. Read the publications. Read Intercom. Read the body of knowledge. Read the Technical Communication Journal. Attend educational programs. STC has many, many of them. They have courses. They have webinars. All kinds of things. Look into certification. Because that can provide some credentials for you that might be valuable to employers. Look into other professional groups that might be tied in with your subject area of interest. For example, you might want to look into project management. The Project Management Institute might be helpful to you, or IEEE if you're interested in engineering topics. If you're into training and instructional design, look into the e-learning guild, or ISPI, or ATD. Or if you're interested in medical writing, the American Medical Writers Association might be a good way for you to network and find out more about that area. So it's important to, keep your travel guides with you at all times. Also, never stop building your navigational skills. You need to be a lifelong learner. You need to always be looking for the next educational opportunity, because as this field changes, you need to change and grow with it. And no matter how extensive our experience is as technical communicators, we're actually all students, every single one of us. We may be working full-time, we may even be retired, but we're still students. Next slide, please. Keep your professional binoculars handy. It's important to keep your ear to the ground about trends not only in technology or science, but in the business and political landscapes. So don't be afraid to go outside your specialty area. Take a look at business publications, read the Wall Street Journal occasionally, look at business publications just to get a feel for what's happening in the business community. Read about other areas outside of your specialty. For example, I know nothing about medical writing, but, it does me good to find out a little bit more about what medical writers do, just to kind of give myself a basis of comparison about how I do things as opposed to how they do things, and that provides some wisdom. And reflect on your own user experience, because there's wisdom to draw from that. Now, you've probably heard the phrase, know your user because they are not you. And that's true. They are not you. But we are all users nevertheless. And think about a time when you had to put something together, where you had to install or build something, or you had to set up a software program, and you had to configure something, and the documentation failed you. Reflect on how that felt to you. What was wrong? What failed? For example, you might have thought, I'm trying to follow this procedure, and they started right in the middle. I don't know how to get started. Okay, wisdom. It's important to give your users the proper start. So those are the sorts of things I try to reflect on when I'm reading documentation as a user. I want it to educate me to do my job better so that my users don't have to go through what I went through, even if it's not the same subject area. So, another way to gain some insights is to read TechComm job descriptions periodically, even if you're not looking for a job. Now, I say this with some caution because, as Jack mentioned earlier, sometimes the job description doesn't really reflect 100% of what the company needs or wants. At the same time, it gives you a good idea of not only how many jobs are being posted in a particular geographical area or in a particular specialty, but just how they're describing it. So even if you haven't really had a need to look at job ads, or you've gotten jobs through references or the hidden job network or whatever, it's just good to kind of know what's out there. How are people describing the type of work that's wanted? Because it will give you some interesting insights, and occasionally it will give you some comic relief. For example, when I was looking for a job several years ago, I came across this job description that said second shift. And I thought, that's interesting. Most technical communication jobs aren't second shift. Technical writer / security guard. And it's like, good grief, I've never seen anything like this. This must be quite an interesting job. I didn't bother to apply for it because I knew I didn't want to work second shift, but I thought, there's really a lot of education that some of these people need about what kind of work we do. So you'll run into that occasionally. Seek role models. Modeling is a great way to learn and grow professionally, because there are probably people you know and admire and whose work and behavior you want to emulate. And I found that by kind of silently shadowing people in terms of how they conduct themselves at meetings, how they organize their paperwork, how they plan their day, can give me some ideas about, how to improve myself and how to improve my work processes and my productivity in general. So, if there's someone that is a good role model for you, watch them and see if you can emulate the things that they do. So always ask yourself, when you're in a group, in a team you're working with, or, a class that you're taking, whatever, who is sparking you as a role model? Because they can be wonderful silent teachers. Next slide, please. And contribute to your profession. Seek opportunities to share your expertise and insights through presentations or articles or blogs or teaching or mentoring. I mean, this not only helps you to build your network, it helps you give back to the profession, and it doesn't do the resume any harm either. listen to yourself as well as to others. Now, there are a lot of wise people in our field who can give you a lot of good advice that can be very helpful. But you're going to hear some bad advice too, and you have to filter that through your own experience. You know, you'll hear people say, "Well, that's not the trend, that's not the direction we're going in," or "You better take this training or your resume is not going to look too good." You have to filter every single one of those pieces of advice to make sure that it's true for you, because if it isn't true for you, then it's not going to help you at all. So, you know, you can learn a lot from other people. It's important to listen to what's out there, what the wisdom is, but only you can truly know the road you need to follow. So you have to go where your heart points you. And I say that not as, you know, new age fluff, but just sometimes your instincts and your gut and your intuition is your best friend, and you have to listen to that. Next slide, please. And remember that your career path is a process of discovery. And along the way, you will gain new perspectives that inspire you in new directions. You'll go places you didn't think that you would end up going in. And you'll encounter a lot of signals and signs as you travel. Sometimes there will be indicators that you have two directions, right or left. Sometimes the road will be slippery and you have to just, you know, hang on and get through it. Other times it goes up and down. So you'll get these signals as you go through your career and your life. And that's okay, because we all go through these. No career path is 100% straight line. And I promise you that you will see unprecedented change as technology continues to evolve and cultural changes drive our future. And I'm willing to bet that 30 years from now, you're going to be just as astounded then as I am now at the changes that have taken place. And remember that it's okay to change your mind in your path. If there's something you don't like, that's okay. You can change it. Finally, just a couple of quick things. STC has a path for your career too. And when you graduate, if you're a student member now, you can go to the STC new professional member category. That's your first full member category. It's good for the first 3 years of your career, and it gives you a chance to become an STC member and maintain some, reduced membership rates in the early years of your career. Also consider certification. Certification has been around STC for several years now, and it's a good way to provide some credentials for you. The STC website, stc.org, has a certification menu. You can go ahead and look on that. STC provides a lot of support on that. I also put a link to the certification information in the chat. Finally, know that our profession matters. We make a difference every day. Someone got to go home from work on time because a database reference manual that was helping them do a configuration helped them get their job done an hour early. A plane full of 150 passengers landed safely because the pilots had a problem in the cockpit, and they were able to solve it through the procedures that were clearly and carefully documented and readable within the confines of a cockpit. A technical support group saved hundreds of dollars on calls because the documentation was updated by one of us to eliminate the need for those calls. So these differences are happening every day all over the world. So you have chosen your career well, and you will do well. And I wish you all the best. Thank you. Oh, and here's my contact information. You can reach me on email at meyercommunications@gmail.com. You can reach me on Twitter, LRMeyer747. The 747 is named after the Boeing 747, formerly the Queen of the Sky. And I'm also available on LinkedIn if you'd like to connect. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you.
Yeah, so our next presenter is Byron, who's going to be presenting on navigating online resources.
Hi, everybody. It's Friday night. Yay. So thank you so much for having me and the amazing talks that we've heard so far. And I'm so impressed with our student members, faculty advisor, chapter members. It's great to see everybody. So my STC membership has gone for more decades than I would like to admit, but like Diane, I'm in the late part of my career. So I found out about STC because somebody ran through the office at Motorola where I was working writing pager guides. And somebody said, who has 3 copies of something? There's a competition. Submitted the 3 copies of a pager manual, won an award, and found out about STC. The path to associate fellow, I earned that designation in 2010, is just because I said yes. When somebody asks you to do something, say yes. Would you like to help? Yes. Would you like to be a chapter leader? Yes. So in 2007, I was at IBM in Boca Raton and a hurricane was coming. And they said, everybody grab your stuff and go home. And that's it. That's when I started working at home as a remote worker. And I never did go back to an office. And what do I like about my job now? I just started a new job this week at Tendermint. So I entered the blockchain universe and I have no knowledge of this domain. So I love it. It's like I have a brand new career once again. So like Lori mentioned, there's always curves in the road and something different. It's awesome. This week I worked with people in Russia, Ireland, London, India, Switzerland, and I got a new boss on my first day. So in the smart up world, there's always a lot of things to change. Mostly I like to work with people that I admire and respect, and I like flexibility and autonomy. So that's who I am. So let's go on to the next slide. There's a lot here. This is your souvenir. The online resources I'm here to talk about, we won't have time to dive in, but we will have time to just introduce them so that you can visit them later. The favorite thing that you will want to know is what you've heard before from our previous speakers is congratulations, you belong here. You're already an active participant and share generously, just like we're all talking to each other tonight. Jack Molisani is the one who said, rising tides float more boats. I remember that and I took that to heart. So the TechComm job search resources, I have been asked probably at least once a month for, hey, who's hiring? Do you know somebody? I'm hiring. So I just have a little list of TechComm job search resources. And like Jessica mentioned earlier, we touch base just to explore some options that we both might want to know about. I think I heard somebody else say that you can create an account on the STC mentor board. You can be a mentor or a mentee. And I think the person who is the giver is actually the one who receives the most. Blogs are good for me because I don't always pick up magazines and read everything, but I do open emails that end up in my mailbox. And I've been writing docs for developers for decades now. So I always open and read the I'd Rather Be Writing doc by Tom Johnson. And recently I found out about an aggregated news list on content by another STC member. And STC provides a curated list of blogs. I don't know if you know that. I learned that recently. Another friend recommended Twitter as a knowledge resource. I mostly look at Twitter as a way to serve as a portal. If I see something interesting, I can click into it and decide whether to follow that path. The most important thing, as always, when you build your identity online, make sure that you stay on topic. So if you need to have a separate identity for your professional life, I recommend that you do that. One of the favorite souvenirs that I take with me from one job to the next are a collection of technical content style guides. Diane talked earlier about different tools that you can use to present and structure the content and the use of Grammarly. There's all kinds of information about styles and when should we use the word hand? Well, we shouldn't because it's not good for accessibility. And I can never remember the exact things, but I do know how to look them up. So this will be on the slides you'll have, and you could look into that. In almost every interview, people always ask me, well, what documentation do you like? And I have to think, yes, I should always have a list of docs I like. When I want to look at something, I like to have a model for something I'd like to follow. So a list of the docs I like and aspire to gives you some good examples of the types of documentation you might enjoy writing. Part of why I like being a technical writer, Lori hit on too, it's diverse. There's a lot of different ways that your career could go, but mostly it's because our profession does matter and we get to work with really smart people. I like to think about how I work with people, and I admire this guide to internal technical communication from the Basecamp company. It's an excellent reminder that long form, asynchronous, written communication in our jobs every day helps us to build relationship and provide excellent work. And just for fun, I gave you a nice link here to the radio garden I discovered this week. You click on it, you go around the globe, and you can have live radio anywhere. Next slide, please. What should new technical communicators know? Walt Disney said it best. When you're curious, you find lots of interesting things to do. I heard as earlier speakers say, be a life student, do it. Cultivate curiosity. Always be organizing everything you're interested in. So we don't have to remember everything, but we do have to remember to know how to find it. There's a concept of a digital garden. It's a space where you can have incomplete thoughts, you can park information, you can drill down into that link and learn about tools for creating digital gardens, but you can also just create a document. I haven't had a Microsoft Word license in years because the space I write in, we use Google Docs for our informal docs and wikis and online tools, but I do like to have a way to keep a digital garden. So I do that, and even online resources. When people ask for samples of my work, if I don't have samples that I can share because of proprietary information, I could give them some informal docs that I did at my last job, which I recently did to get the job I have now. And I second the idea that you want to work with people you admire and respect. We do become like the people we spend time with. That's why I like the career of a technical writer. Next slide, please. How can you apply the knowledge? Read the docs, all of them. Be the go-to person for product and knowledge. Bookmark so that you can retrieve it. And if that information isn't there, document the gaps. Help yourself and those who follow for the work that you do. Use the cloud, know where your content is. How many copies of your resume do you have? Always know where your file is and that you can quickly access it. So the best advice I can give you is keep a smile file. Record your accomplishments, your thanks, your praise, your project milestones, add your dates, revisit often, and make sure to praise others. So I left a job recently, and I just took little screenshots of the Slack messages that I got, and it reminded me of my relationship with that person. So get permission, keep copies of the work, build your brand, be discoverable, make sure you blog, you tweet, you post to LinkedIn, publish when you can, and build relationships, not only to start a relationship, but provide it, proper care and feeding. Next slide, please. This is me. I'm Barrie. I'm on LinkedIn. I also have a profile on GitHub. You can have your own profile page on GitHub, and I have a nice digital garden that I park on the WordPress blog. It's not an ongoing blog, but it's a digital garden where I like to park ideas. And thank you to Jessica Nealon for inviting me to come. I realized my STC Associate Fellow journey had been published in an STC magazine, so I took it as an opportunity to make a new post and to put that there. So in case you want to read about me, I am a former president of the STC Palm Beaches chapter that used to be present here in South Florida. So all of those ideas are a lot. I know it's late and it's Friday night, so I zipped through this, but the souvenirs are the slides for you, and I hope you find them useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Barrie. That was fantastic. And next up, we have Rachel Eichen on how to get a job without networking.
All right. Hey, everybody. So my name's Rachel Eichen. I live just outside of Vegas, hence my background. It's still actually sunny out here. And I wanted to talk to you about how to get a job without networking. And just so we're kind of clear, like when I think of networking, I think of, they used to have these meetings for professionals, like places like Applebee's with overpriced appetizers and terrible drinks, and there's nowhere to sit. And it's really loud and you're trying to talk to people, but you can't. I've gone to a few of those. It didn't really get me anywhere. There's also job fairs, which I'm going to be honest, as a technical communicator, weren't as effective for me as a form of networking or to find jobs. Networking can also just be who you know. So for instance, I had a friend in college who needed a job when he graduated, and his dad just happened to golf with the CEO of a company and said, "Hey, my son needs a job." And the CEO said, "Oh, I can get him a job." Right? That's also another form of networking. So I want to show you, though, it's possible to get jobs without networking. So next slide, please. So I have a little poll question for you. I have a question. What is the best way to get a job? If you would just type in the chat. I'm curious to think what you think the best way to get a job is. I like Jessica's answer, pray. All right, see some good answers. Next slide, please. I saw some people actually get it, but it's not working, guys. Sorry, it is the best way to get a job. So this presentation is not to take away from networking. It's still the best way to find jobs, but there are other ways. So next slide, please. So what's the second best way to get a job? And this is, of course, my opinion, but what do you think the second best way to get is? And I promise you it's not networking. I like JD's answer, go to school and join FTC and FTC. Oh, I like Barry's answer, asking for it, nice. So next slide. In my opinion, the second best way to get a job is persistence and keeping at it. And I'll seek to demonstrate that in the next slides about what exactly I mean by persistence. But all the things that people said are also good ways to get jobs too, so I don't want to discount those. Next slide, please. So I've actually been hired for jobs in libraries and hospitals and casinos, where I actually work now, restaurants and software. And I've gotten all of those jobs without networking. So that means that I didn't know anybody prior to working there. I certainly didn't know any CEOs or golfed with any CEOs who could get me jobs there. And I got these jobs the old-fashioned way, just submitting my resume and cover letter on job sites. Now, there are a little bit tricks to this, which I'm going to get into, but I want to let you know it is totally possible. So next slide, please. So let's talk about the basics. We already kind of touched on resumes and cover letters, and did want to point out, I saw someone mention in the chat that FTC is holding a resume workshop. So if you don't feel great about your resume, I highly recommend that you go to that. Don't forget, you're also surrounded by lots of people who will happily review your resume for you, your professionals, your professors, that sort of thing. I will review your resume if you absolutely need to, but there's lots of people who will look at that for you. Same thing with a cover letter. You definitely want to set up job alerts on places like Indeed and LinkedIn, as well as constantly searching for jobs, seeing what's out there. And when you see a job, I recommend that you go directly to the website to apply. Don't apply through Indeed or LinkedIn, go to the website. That will also give you the chance to see what's on the website and then tailor your resume and cover letter to what they're about. It's also not a bad idea to think of a few places that you want to work specifically and go directly to their career site and see what jobs are available. Be persistent about checking repeatedly, maybe like once a week or so, because sometimes jobs will pop up there that don't go to the general job sites. And then finally, I want to remind you to apply to the job anyway. So you're going to see jobs that you might think, I don't know if I'm qualified for those. But you know what? Apply anyway. Let them determine that you're not qualified for it. As long as you don't lie in your resume, which we should never do, I recommend that you do apply to the job anyway. All right, next slide, please. Next thing you can do is have them find you. So let them do the networking for you. So I recommend that you get experience writing, even if it's free, or get experience doing any kind of technical communication field that you're interested in. When I was a student at UCF, I was really interested in consumer gadgets, and I was also interested in video games. So I actually sought out blogs to write news posts for free. They'll gladly take free labor. And I also wrote instruction manuals for video games that I like to play. And the more writing experience that you get, the better you're going to be at it. And it's okay if it's free in the beginning because you're building up your portfolio. And then we also talked about a little bit portfolios earlier. I recommend buying a domain name. They're cheap. It looks really nice and professional. And then putting a portfolio there. You don't even have to know web design these days. You can make a really nice looking portfolio. And I highly recommend a domain name too. Your LinkedIn profile should be up to date. And I saw everybody putting their LinkedIn profiles in the description. So I'm sure you guys are on that, but just a little side note there. Use keywords in your resume. So we are very fortunate in the technical communication field that there's a lot of software and keywords that recruiters are looking for. So make sure those are in your resume. Even if you have a working knowledge of something, feel free to put it in your resume as long as you have some experience with it. And then finally, Google yourself and know the results, because employers will look for you and look at the results. Now, if your name is John Smith, and I don't think I saw any John Smiths on here, this does not apply to you, but for everybody else who has a normal, not easy to find name, then this may apply to you. So just make sure you know the results. There's a Sky Smith, but I'm curious, Sky, if you Google yourself, if it's how many Sky Smiths there are, but you do have Smiths, so you do have that advantage. All right, next slide. And yes, I wanted to point out that you can write STC memo to members articles too. So that's another great way to get experience. All right, so I wanted to close with some lazy networking tips. Some people may call these networking. I don't really call it networking, but we'll call it lazy networking just to compromise. So you should be sending a thank you note after every single interview that you do. It only takes 5 minutes. You've already got their email address. So even if it's with a recruiter, even if it's with a short interview, a phone interview, just send a thank you note. That's my recommendation. And then another little tip, you're probably going to apply for a job that you really want, and you're probably not going to get it. So even if you get a rejection email, consider following up even if you really wanted the job. Now, you don't want to say, why didn't I get the job, even though you really want to ask that. What you can say is, do you have any advice for me that would make me a more attractive candidate in the future? So you can steal that one. But I do recommend following up on jobs if you were really heartbroken that you didn't get them. And I want to stress that all you need is an email address. And all you need to do is just send one email. So the first job that I had out of college was at a place called SunGuard. And the first time I saw the job posting, it was on Career Builder. I applied, I got a generic rejection notice, and that was that. The second time the job was posted, I went directly to the website this time and I applied. I still got a rejection notice, but I got a rejection notice from the HR person. So the third time the job was posted, this time, not only did I apply on the website, but I also sent an email to the HR person. And I said, hey, I applied on the website, but here's my email just in case. And managed to get the job for me. So what's the worst that could happen if they've already said no? If they were already rejecting me twice, so what's the third? What's wrong with the third time? So that's where that persistence comes in. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, especially if you're not going the traditional route of networking. And then finally, if you are a social media user, use your network, right? You've built it up, you've spent time with them. So make a quick social network post. Say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Does anybody have any leads? Or if you see a job at a company that you want to work for, then say, does anybody have any connections at this company? Let them do the networking for you. All right, next slide. So that concludes my presentation. I am on LinkedIn, but in the spirit of good networking, I am not on there super often. So don't get mad if I don't respond right away. The best way to reach me is through my email. Yes, that is really my email. I have had that email for quite a long time. So I'm really proud of that email, and I figured this group would really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Rachel. That was an excellent presentation. And next up for our last presentation, we have Melissa Rios, who's going to discuss working in the defense industry.
Hello, good evening, and thanks for sticking around this late on a Friday night. So I am Melissa Rios. I'm an integrated product support manager and a group leader at L3Harris Technologies. And if you'll notice, my title is not technical writer. And I will go into exactly what integrated product support is. I have 25 years experience in the field. I am a UCF Technical Communications graduate. And I've been at L3Harris for a total of 19 years, not 19 consecutive years. I have actually left Harris, used to be called Harris. I've left L3Harris twice and come back. So this is actually my third round with L3Harris. But currently in this position, I've been able to implement a partnership between our integrated product support department and the TechComm program at UCF. And this has provided us with the opportunity to offer technical writing internships. And so we've also hired one new college grad last year. We have another one that will be starting with us in May as soon as she graduates. She was our inaugural intern last year, and we offered her a new college grad position as soon as she graduates in May, because she just impressed us so much. So we just finished up our second round of interviews for our second internship, and we will be making a selection here probably Monday. So looking forward to that. So my involvement in the STC, when I was at UCF, I was a student STC member. I continued STC for a little while after I graduated, let it fall off due to some financial difficulties. But then I have recently rejoined, and mostly I have been just participating through these events that we have been invited to for the FTC. So next slide. So working in the defense industry, as I've mentioned, I've worked with L3Harris for a total of 19 years. I live on the Space Coast of Florida. We have quite a few defense contractors in the area, even contractors that are tied to the Kennedy Space Center. In the area where I am, I have L3Harris, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Boeing. We have a small Lockheed Martin, and there are several smaller defense contractors out at Patrick Space Force Base. So that is just within a less than 20-mile radius. And then if you go 40 minutes up the coast, you have SpaceX and Blue Horizon, so as well as Kennedy Space Center. So there is a lot of defense contractors, government contractors in this area. So what does it mean to work at a defense contractor? L3Harris is considered the 6th largest defense government contractor in the world. We, in 2019, Harris and L3 Technologies merged to become L3Harris Technologies. We currently have 48,000 employees in 100 different countries around the world. We are in multiple areas: defense, cyberspace, air, land, sea, and multi-domains. In case any of you guys saw the Mars rover that landed just last week, L3Harris we developed the communication systems that's allowing NASA to communicate with the rover. So as a technical communicator at L3Harris, we have the opportunity to support many different development, production, and sustainment platforms. These could be specifically software. These could be hardware. These could be a combination of hardware and software. Every opportunity is a new way to learn. It's always going to be new technology, innovative technology, and that's what makes it so exciting working for a government contractor. We can't always talk about what you do because of security or proprietary information, but it's always a new adventure. So that is probably the biggest thing that you get out of working for a defense contractor is they're always on the cutting edge. You may not always know that they're on the cutting edge because, you know, the defense contractors, they don't talk about it, but you're always learning, and they're always developing something new. So that's always the exciting part for me working at a defense contractor. Next slide. So what should technical communicators know if you are looking to work at a defense contractor or at a government contractor? Be familiar with the different documentation methods, and the presentations prior to this, they've provided great information, and I'm just going to build on that. We do structured and unstructured documentation. Documentation is going to be dictated by who the customer is and what kind of documentation they are going to want as their end deliverable. In some situations, we have had very old-fashioned customers that said, I just want a paper manual. And you just kind of look at them like, really? It's the 21st century. You still want a page turner. You try to encourage them to embrace new technology, but some are very set in their ways. Fortunately, we are getting more advanced technology. Our customers, the Air Force, the Space Force, the U.S. Army, they are all looking for the best way to present the information, and they are going to a more structured environment. So that's where the DITA, the XML, the HTML, and the CSS is all coming in. So that's why I'm saying make sure you're familiar with that. We have a highly classified series of programs that deliver all of the documentation via HTML. I just finished working on a business development proposal where we will be delivering, if we win it, fingers crossed, we will be delivering all of the documentation in S1000D, which is a very structured version of XML documentation, just to put it mildly. And I do not recommend reading the spec for S1000D unless you have trouble sleeping at night. But if you know XML, if you know HTML, if you're familiar and comfortable with cascading style sheets, if you're comfortable with data modules and working with that structure, that's the path that we are seeing that the defense industry is going through. Be comfortable with tools. And, you know, Madcap Flare, that was a great presentation on Madcap. That is something that I'm starting to see in my proposals, is they're wanting that kind of documentation development, the interactive online help, the context-based online help, and Madcap answers that. Basically will check that box for us. Adobe FrameMaker, a very powerful documentation tool. And it has both structured and unstructured options. So Dreamweaver, yes, it's old-fashioned, but it is still used on some programs, especially considering the fact that for classified jobs, we have to be very careful about any kind of metadata that is hidden behind the documentation, and Dreamweaver allows us to be able to clean that up. Graphics tools, Photoshop, Illustrator, Visio, I use all of those. Snagit, I can't live without Snagit. So that is, so these are all tools that if you are familiar with, if you can say, yes, I'm comfortable with it, that will definitely be a help when moving forward. So take advantage of free trials and any kind of student pricing. If you've got those options and you can do that, definitely, you know, if you can learn those kind of tools, it just makes it easier to learn future tools. So Next slide. So communication, how can you apply this knowledge? Communicate. That is key. You have to be able to communicate. You have to communicate what you know, what you don't know. Ask questions. Always be, always share your passion for technical communication. Don't be a shy, quiet, yes, I'm actually an introvert, but always be out there saying, I could do this. I know how to do this. I know how to write this. No job, no task is too small. Contribute in whatever way you can. And by this, what I mean is if you're assigned in a government contract, if you're assigned to a program and you're waiting on information and you're working with an engineering team, you're working with the system integration and test team, get to know them, volunteer your time. And by volunteer, I don't mean like do it for free, but you have some free time on your hand while you're waiting to get access to the software, get access to the hardware. See if you can offer your help to the system integration and test team. I have learned much more working with them than I ever did on my own. Working with them and helping them run through their tests, that allowed me to get hands-on, ask questions of people who actually are experts, discovered procedures that I didn't even know about, and found out that this was something that the end user was going to have to do. And then because I was actually willing to help them and actually, worked, 50-hour weeks to help them make sure they got their deadlines, they in turn helped me run through the procedures again when I needed the help. Be innovative, always thinking of new ways that you can present the information. How can you be clearer? How can you be more concise? Is there a better way that this information can be presented? Always get involved. That is, be involved in your department, be involved on your program, volunteer in activities. At L3Harris, we have employee resource groups. We also have volunteer activities that you do on your own time. That is always a good way to grow your network. And at a company as large as L3Harris, you're not always going to be working with the same tech writers, but you may always be working with the same engineers. Or you could be working on a job and get a phone call from another engineer that you worked with 5 years ago, but he remembers what a great job you did, and he remembers how helpful you were, and he specifically asked for you by name. So that gives you more opportunities just because you made it a positive impression, because you always were involved and you were always innovative and you always came up with a way that you could be more productive and helpful on the program. Never, ever stop learning. Take advantage of mentoring. Take advantage of any training opportunities that are offered to you. That's always a key. I have been, like I said, I've been in the business for 25 years. I have a mentor that I work with, and every time that he has any free time, I am constantly asking him questions. I'm always picking his brain. I'm also mentoring with my manager because he has, I've mentioned a goal of mine is to move into his position someday. So he is mentoring me so that I can take over as the engineering manager for our department. And on the flip side, I'm also mentoring 2 other people who are wanting to move up in the department and gain more skills. So, and as one of our presenters mentioned earlier, when you mentor, you learn just as much as the person you're mentoring. So definitely always keep learning. Next slide, I think that's it. So I think the next slide is my contact information. So that is, you can reach me at that email or on LinkedIn. I don't do Twitter, sorry.
All right, thank you very much, Melissa. That was an excellent presentation. And up next, we're going to enter a brief time of Q&A. So feel free to ask our presenters your questions.
I'm unmuted. Oh.
And for Q&A, I'd like to pass the mic over to Deborah, who will be facilitating this.
Okay. So what questions do we have for our panelists?
Deborah, if I may, we had a few questions in chat. I'd like to
Great.
go through them in its room quick.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Julia.
One question was, do you believe in emailing after an interviewer? We had an answer of yes, always in the chat. I'd like to tack on, if you are told that a next step is you'll hear back next Tuesday, and next Tuesday comes and goes and you haven't heard from them, Wednesday, email them saying, hey, I want to follow up. You said I'd hear from you Tuesday. I haven't heard anything. Do you have any updates for me? And then if you still don't hear from them, wait a week plus 1 day, then email them again.
This is Jack. I would add to that you can say, hey, I'm just checking in. I have a very aggressive spam filter and I want to make sure I didn't miss your email.
That's a good point. The next question I had is, what are some other useful markup languages to pick up as a tech writer? I know a bit of HTML, but I want to learn more. HTML and CSS are two main ones that I would recommend, but if you learn others, they just come across as, oh, by the way, I know more than just one language. I am a valuable person you should add to your team.
I just wanted to, oh, sorry, this is, no, I didn't want to interrupt you, Julia, but Jack, you reminded me of something when you mentioned the spam filter. I just wanted to jump back because something that's happening today with phone calls, because this happened when Jack called me, is with all the robocalling, your phone carrier is trying to help you by sending people straight to voicemail without it even ringing. That happened when Jack called me. And so I did use that to follow up and just say, look, this is happening on my phone. I just wanted to give you a call. And that's another way you could reach out, piggybacking on Jack's, because that does happen all the time to me. So that's another great way to reach out, sort of non-aggressively.
Yep. And the last part that I wanted to say was that anything you learn can be brought into your resume or an interview again as a little cherry on top to say, you should probably hire me.
Probably.
Just a little hint, hint, nudge, nudge. You're not telling them what to do.
Okay.
There's a question, is Upwork a trustworthy website to pick up freelance work? I'm not familiar with that. Is anybody?
I'll answer that. I have personally have not used it, but I have friends that have used it with great success. It actually used to be called Elance, I think, and now it's Upwork. Yes, it's very reliable. The system's a little bit, the currency system is a little bit weird, but once you get used to it, it's not a big deal. But yes, it's definitely a reliable place to find work. Just, you know, just keep in mind that it's people posting things and you know, take on jobs that you think you can handle, that sort of thing. But yes, it is reliable.
I also want to add too is that I've constantly updating and more of kind of moving things around a little bit in LinkedIn in my profile. And because of my resumes that I've gotten and I seek out help like from Jack, I've always tweaking it, always changing it, always trying to see what's out there, reading the job descriptions. And one of the things I can tell you is that the last 2 to 3 jobs I've attained during my career, and it's been 26 years, came from LinkedIn. And I didn't apply. They found me. In my last job, which I just got hired at the end of January, they found me, and the person found my profile, sent me a message, and I had a 30-minute interview, and then I had a job. And I come to find out she was a former president of the STC New Hampshire. So networking, you know, you never know where the next person's going to come from that's going to look for you. And while you can be proactive, having your profile up to date, clean, and look around, see what others are doing in their profile and in the jobs that they have. And it matters. It matters a lot. And it's a very forgiving career, because you can be out, you can have bumps in the road in your life, in your personal life. And it's definitely, I mean, I'm starting all over again after 2.5 years, and it's just right where I left off, if not better. So anyone else? Let's see.
No, I absolutely agree with Deborah, because I use LinkedIn all the time to find candidates. We have another question from Alex. Is it worth setting up an LLC for doing freelance work, even though I'm not relying on that for making a living? I'm going to give my opinion first and turn it over. Yes. So many states are clamping down on using 1099 contractors. When I can go corp to corp, makes it so much easier. So I definitely, yes.
I was going to add, because I've done my freelance work only as a 1099 sole proprietor. So it is possible, if you're not going to be making a lot of money, it might not be worth the investment. But if you are going to be making some significant money, then it will be looking into. But I have done it as a sole proprietor when needed. But yeah, it depends. I think it depends on how much money you're looking at making too. And I also wanted to make sure we didn't miss Melissa's question.
Right.
Nancy's question for Melissa. So, but
yes. So I can either answer her one-on-one, or I can do it in the overall. It doesn't really matter.
Repeat the question for the audience.
Okay, so the question, and I have lost it because this chat screen has moved up.
How do you get a security clearance?
Yeah, so security clearances in my experience has been paid for by the company that I work for. It is tied to you. It is your security clearance, but for example, I have a top secret SCI clearance that Harris paid for. I've had it since 2006. I have had a top secret security clearance. This is, like I said, it is something that is paid for by the company. It is not cheap. Your information is sent to several security agencies within the government. They will do a full background check on you. They will do a full background check on your spouse. They will do a background check on your family. They will talk to your neighbors. They will talk to everyone that knows you. I have been interviewed for multiple employees that I've worked with. They do a background check on where you live, who you know. If you have a dual citizenship, you cannot get a security clearance with the U.S. government. So it's something that is key if for a defense contractor, if you're going to be working security jobs or classified jobs. And now, for L3Harris, we do have a lot of programs that do not require security clearance. I cannot say necessarily the same thing about Northrop Grumman. I know that almost is a requirement in all of their job postings that you have to have a security clearance or the ability to get one. So it's not something that you can just go get yourself, is what I'm saying. It's very expensive and can take upwards of 2 to 3 years to get it.
You must be sponsored. Yeah.
Yes, you must be sponsored, and it can take up to 3 years to actually get your full security clearance if you've never had one before.
That's where being careful about what you post.
Yes.
What you post and pictures and stuff on your
Exactly.
social media.
Yeah. So for example, if you were to find me on Facebook, which you probably wouldn't be able to see anything because I have my account is completely set to private. I do not list who I work for. So and my Facebook is completely separate from my LinkedIn account. And when you go out to my LinkedIn account, I don't really go into a lot of detail about what I do at L3Harris. So it's just, you have to be very, very careful.
I was going to add too, although I do not have a security clearance, I am licensed for gaming in multiple jurisdictions, which is which is a similar procedure because they ask a lot of questions. So don't be surprised if you need records of like your high school diploma and your immunization shots and things So make sure you keep a file of all these documents you think you're not going to need, because, and then make sure you have friends who will vouch for you, that sort of thing too.
That is key.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
definitely do not throw away any old passports, because you will have to list every time you left the country.
Right.
Yes, you will. And
you also have to list the exact start and stop dates of every employment you've ever had.
and everywhere you've ever lived.
Yeah.
So
document yourself. Treat it as a good
yes.
documentation project.
Yeah,
Yes.
record keeping is so important. Once you nominate somebody in STC for any kind of honorary position, like associate fellow, you realize all of those dates and record keeping for others. That's when I started keeping records for myself. And what Jack said, the start and stop date for every job, I actually keep an extra copy of my resume with the month and day that I started of every job.
So just a quick question that was submitted to me through the chat was about mid-career professionals. You said to treat a job. Oh, sorry. Well, what do you think about how every junior technical writer role asks for 1 to 2 years of experience? What can we do about that when you have more experience, or for people who don't have 1 to 2 years? Because sometimes that 1 to 2 years is kind of a hard amount to, match.
Who's that
But
for?
also don't be a job hopper.
Yeah, I think this was a general question for the panel.
Okay.
No. I know what you mean. Whenever I see that, I think, well, you'd be the kind of person that would get on a job and leave, but then they don't like that either. So where's that year amount coming from? But I see that a
Well,
lot.
there's ways to frame that, because the first half of my career, I was a job hopper. I went from project to project to project as a freelance, as a consultant. And you can like Bethany's word massage your resume to, form it in your consulting experience versus a permanent employment experience. And that's what I've presented it in that way. And it also, how you promote it as experience. Everywhere I went, I learned something new. I learned new tools. I learned systems. I learned all of that. So it's having the job, lots of jobs can be quite a benefit. It was in my career.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Given the time, I think we had one more question. Is that right, Julia? That was submitted?
Yep.
All right. This will be our last question for tonight. Sorry, I just realized I didn't read it out. So the question was from Caitlin. You said to treat a job description or requirements as a wish list, but at what point should you not apply due to divergence from what they want?
Well, I'll say you should always apply, because sometimes somebody else wrote that job description and they don't have control. And it's the interview when it's the time to ask, okay, what are my exact responsibilities? Like, for instance, the job I applied for said 40 to 50% travel. And when I got in the interview, they said, it's probably going to be more like 20%. So I wouldn't, if you have an interest, I would apply anyway, and then wait for the interview to ask what the job's really about.
I've also found that some of the time people are writing the job description from HR perspective and not from a technical writing or technical communication perspective. So when I was managing teams, I would always make sure that they ran it by me first, because they would ask for things. I said, I don't need that. That's not what I need. I need this, this, and this. And they took my description and put it into the HR system. So those are things you got to kind of watch out for too. So just apply.
One of the things that I do as a recruiter when I post a job is something is absolutely required. I put absolutely required.
Right. Yeah.
And as a rule of thumb, most companies list the requirements in order of importance. So if you have the first 3 or 4, but not the last 12, go for it. But if you don't have any of the first 10, that's where I would say rethink that application.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna, I wanted to call out Barry's comment, who said that interviewing for different jobs is good experience too. I'll admit to going on an interview for a job I'm just mediocre on. just for the experience, because I'm definitely one of those people that gets kind of nervous about interviewing. So the more practice I get, the better I get. So I feel like you can never go on, it's always good to go on interviews, if only just to learn more about yourself.
And look for different job descriptions, because as a manager of documentation, I started looking for jobs that said head of content and different things like that. So you go out, you do searches, and then you see what comes back, and then you start looking for jobs with those descriptions. So there's a wide range of positions and work that you don't even know that's out there that you could find by just doing some really good searches.
Yes, and what Rachel said about interviewing, I highly recommend taking an improv comedy class and going to Toastmasters, because you'll never be thrown off by a question you didn't expect. You always have a reasonable answer that'll do you really good stead in your career search.
Absolutely.
All right. So I think, John, you're closing us out.
All right, sounds good. And thank you everybody for the Q&A session, for everybody who asked questions, and for our amazing panelists tonight. And overall, I'd just like to thank everybody for attending, including our amazing presenters, our faculty, my co-host Deborah, and all of our attendees. We hope you're able to learn a lot from today's presentation, and that you can find yourself better prepared for a career in technical communication. And the conversation doesn't have to end here. Feel free to reach out to our presenters with the contact info they put on this slide. If you RSVP'd, you should have their contact information sent to you, or you can always reach out to our organization to get it sent to you. And like they were saying, networking is very important in the professional world. So if you can just reach out to them, maybe ask a few questions in the future, it'd be great to do that. And yes, after the meeting, we'll be we'll be sending you info on our respective emails, given our respective organizations information as well. And we'd love for you to connect with us, both FTC and STC. And next slide, please. Right. So as I said, FTC and STC are both here for you. If you're a current student, we'd love for you to join Future Technical Communicators at UCF. Again, we offer programs every couple weeks on Fridays, sometimes similar to this one, sometimes other things like workshops. We offer scholarships, job opportunities. So if you're a student, it's a great organization to join and a great way to just pave the way for your future. And we have our contact information on the screen as well. And if you're a professional or a current graduate, it'll be an excellent time to join FTC as a student member or as a regular member, because they offer amazing opportunities as well for just getting that professional, that direct professional experience, and their contact info is there as well. So consider joining both these organizations. We have our contact info in there. FTC has the Discord channel. STC Florida has their website, which are posted in the chat. And for anything else, feel free to email us for more information. But that's about it for tonight. I want to thank everybody again for the amazing presentations that were given, the amazing attendees that came in tonight, and for the fantastic time that we all had tonight. So have a great night, everybody, and stay well.
Thank you. Very well done.
Thank all of you.
Hey, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you.